Welcome to Thalira Tales, where stories bloom in silence, carrying emotion, mystery, and hidden truth. Step in and let the tale unfold.
My name is Stacy Cartwright. I'm 28 years old. It's February 15th, 2026. Oakmont Country Club. In 10 minutes, I'm giving the keynote at my father's fundraiser. 20 minutes ago, he introduced me to 12 people as the daughter who failed emergency medicine. Not left. Failed. She was smart enough, he told them, just not steady enough when real lives were on the line. She does safety now, safer for everyone. He said it 12 times. Same smile, same shrug, same little performance. By the end of cocktail hour, strangers were consoling me for a failure I never had. One woman said, "At least you found something smaller." A surgeon said, "Your father must sleep better knowing you're not in an ER." My father laughed. Then he raised his glass and said, "Stacy's still useful, just in a more administrative way." The room laughed with him. I did too. Now he's in the second row. And in 10 minutes, I'm going to let him hear what I let him say about me all night. Before I tell you what happened when I stepped onto that stage, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from, and whether your family ever introduced you as a version of yourself that was never true. But to understand why I'm standing here with 32 slides loaded and my hands perfectly steady, you need to know what happened 6 years ago. September 2019. Jefferson Hospital. Emergency medicine rotation. Night shift. I finished college in 3 years. By 22, I was already on my emergency medicine rotation. Night shifts at Jefferson, the hospital where my father was chief medical officer. Dr. Edmund Cartwright. 3 generations of Cartwrights had worked there. The pediatric wing had our name on it. I'd grown up at hospital fundraisers, summer barbecues with attending physicians, Christmas parties in the doctor's lounge. September 18th, 2019. I clocked in at 7 p.m. Badge number MS2217, third-year medical student, 8 weeks into clinical rotations. My evaluations were good. Better than good. My attending had written exceptional clinical instincts on my midpoint review. I was gunning for emergency medicine residency. Columbia was my top choice. I had the grades. I had the board scores, 94th percentile. I had a plan. That night, bed 12 was a 6-year-old with a fever his mother said wouldn't break. She'd brought him in around 10:15. He'd been sick for 3 days. Tylenol wasn't working. She kept saying, "Something feels wrong." I remember that. The exact phrase. Something feels wrong. The attending physician was Dr. Owen Mercer, 23 years of experience, senior partner in the hospital foundation. My father's golf partner. Every Sunday morning for the past decade. I presented the case. 6-year-old male, fever 3 days. Persistent despite antipyretics, mother concerned about lethargy. Dr. Mercer barely looked at the chart. Viral syndrome, he said. Tylenol, fluids, follow up with pediatrician. Next. I saw the neck stiffness when the boy tried to look at his mother. I saw the petechial rash on his ankle when I helped him back onto the exam table. Small. Easy to miss if you weren't looking. But I was looking. "Dr. Mercer," I said, "should we consider meningitis? He's got nuchal rigidity and what looks like petechiae on his left ankle." Dr. Mercer turned around, slowly, the kind of slow that makes a room go quiet. "You're not the attending," he said. "I've been doing this for 23 years. This is a common cold. Don't waste the family's money on unnecessary tests because you read about zebras in a textbook." The mother looked at me, then at Dr. Mercer, then back at me. "Should I be worried?" she asked. "Kids bounce back fast," Dr. Mercer said. "Just keep him hydrated." They were discharged at 10:45 p.m. I charted my concern in my student note, documented the nuchal rigidity, documented the rash, documented that I'd raised the question of meningitis. I didn't know if anyone would ever read it, but I wrote it down. At 11:30 p.m., I was in the resident lounge when I heard the code announcement over the hospital intercom. I didn't think anything of it. Codes happened. Then my phone buzzed. Text from the night charge nurse, Evelyn Ward. "You still here?" I went back to the ER. Evelyn was standing by the nursing station. She'd been a nurse for 25 years. She didn't waste words. "The boy from bed 12 last night," she said. "He coded at home around 2 a.m., brought back by EMS. Didn't make it. Bacterial meningitis." The room tilted. I put my hand on the desk. "He died?" "At 2:17 a.m., Evelyn said. "They ran the LP in the ambulance. Strep pneumo, fulminant course." I couldn't breathe. I told Dr. Mercer. I said we should consider— "I know," Evelyn said. "I saw your student note." She handed me a printed copy of the hospital's patient safety reporting portal. "You asked about meningitis in your note. You saw it, and you spoke up. You know what to do." I went home at 11:30 that night. I sat on my apartment floor with my laptop. I opened the patient safety event report form. I filled it out. Missed diagnosis. Premature discharge. Student concern dismissed. Preventable death. I attached my student note. The timestamp on the note was 10:38 p.m., 7 minutes before discharge. I clicked submit at 11:52 p.m. The system sent a confirmation email. Report number ER-2019-0918-SC. Your report has been received and will be reviewed by the Patient Safety Committee within 72 hours. I forwarded the confirmation to my clerkship director and student affairs contact. Protocol. Everything by the book. I went to bed at 1 a.m. At 8:03 a.m., I swiped my badge at the hospital entrance. The light turned red. Access denied. I called the clerkship office. The coordinator's voice was careful in a way that made my stomach drop. "Dr. Hale needs to see you." Dr. Walter Hale, Associate Dean for Student Affairs. His office was on the 3rd floor. When I walked in, he didn't make eye contact. He slid a printed email across the desk. Subject line, urgent. Stacy Cartwright, professionalism concern. Sender, Dr. Edmund Cartwright. My father. Sent at 6:42 a.m., 10 hours after I filed the report, 4 hours after the child died. I started reading. My hands went cold. "I'm writing to request immediate review of my daughter Stacy's clinical readiness. During her ER rotation at Jefferson Hospital, she has developed a concerning pattern of questioning attending physicians inappropriately and filing incident reports that stem from her inability to function under the pressure of clinical medicine. Last night's report regarding Dr. Owen Mercer is particularly troubling, Dr. Mercer is a highly respected physician with an impeccable record. Stacy's accusation of a misdiagnosis shows poor judgment and an unwillingness to accept the hierarchical nature of medical training. She's become a liability to the program and to patient care. Our family has endowed the Cartwright Pediatric Wing and has deep ties to this institution. I trust you'll handle this matter appropriately and discreetly. For Stacy's own well-being, I'm requesting her immediate removal from clinical rotations pending professionalism review." I looked up. "I filed a legitimate patient safety report," I said. "A child died." "The matter is under review," Dr. Hale said. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "For now, you're on administrative leave from clinical duties." "What about the Patient Safety Committee?" I asked. "They're supposed to review my report within 72 hours. Dr. Hale looked at his desk. "That's being handled at the hospital level." I understood. It wasn't going to be reviewed. It was going to disappear. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the Student Progress Committee. Mandatory meeting. October 8th, 2019. Room B, 204. I brought a student advocate. The committee had 5 faculty members. None of them mentioned the patient who died. They talked about inappropriate escalation. They talked about failure to follow chain of command. They talked about impact on hospital relationships. The committee chair, a man who'd had dinner at our house 3 times, looked at me with something like pity. Medical education requires teamwork and trust, he said. Your clerkship director reports that you've shown difficulty accepting clinical hierarchy. I asked the question directly. I needed to hear them say it. Has anyone reviewed what happened to the patient I reported? The room went quiet. The chair shifted in his seat. That's not within this committee's purview. The letter came a week later, October 15th, 2019. The committee recommends medical leave pending successful completion of professionalism remediation and fitness for duty evaluation, including psychiatric assessment. My student advocate pulled me aside after the meeting. She was kind, too kind, the kind of kindness that comes with bad news. The professionalism letter will stay in your file, she said quietly. If you want any chance at residency, you should consider voluntary withdrawal, for personal reasons. Clean break. $127,000 in student loans, a 3.89 GPA, 94th percentile on my boards, 8 weeks into my clinical year, and a choice that wasn't a choice. I signed the voluntary withdrawal form on November 4th, 2019. My father called that night. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask how I was. He said, "I think this is for the best, sweetheart. Medicine isn't for everyone." That was the first time he told the story. Thanksgiving came 3 weeks later, our house in Gladwine, Mainline, Pennsylvania. 18 relatives. My aunt asked what happened with medical school. Before I could answer, my father jumped in. Stacy decided medicine wasn't right for her, he said. He was carving the turkey. Casual, like we were discussing the weather. The pressure of clinical rotations. It's not for everyone. Emergency medicine is intense. She just couldn't handle the pace. Better to know now than later. My uncle frowned. But she was doing so well, what happened? She's smart, my father said. But smart isn't always enough in an emergency room. You need to be steady when real lives are on the line. Stacy wasn't ready for that level of responsibility. I sat there, silent. My mother was nodding along. That's when I knew. He'd already convinced her it was my failure, not his betrayal. No one asked me for my version. The Christmas card went out in mid-December. 200 cards, hospital board members, country club directory, medical school alumni network, family friends. The photo didn't include me, the letter did. Edmund continues his important work at Jefferson Hospital, now in his 8th year as chief medical officer. Margaret is enjoying her book club and planning the spring garden. Stacy is taking time to explore other career paths after deciding medical school wasn't the right fit. We're proud of her self-awareness and excited to see where life takes her next. I got texts for weeks. Sorry to hear about med school. You'll find your path. Good for you for knowing your limits. I stopped answering. I stopped going home. By January, I was sitting in my apartment looking at my bank account. $127,000 in debt. No MD, no residency, no career path. My savings had $3,200. My father sent an email with a job offer. Subject line, an option. I've spoken with our hospital foundation director. We can get you into a development coordinator role. $38,000 a year to start. It's not medicine, but it's stable work. You'd be helping with fundraising, donor relations, event planning. We take care of our own. Let me know. I stared at that email for an hour. Working in the building where a child died because no one would listen to me. Under my father's name. His legacy. His version of mercy. I wrote back one line. No thank you, he called. Pride won't pay your loans, Stacy. I hung up. If your own father told a story about you for 6 years, a story where you failed, where you were too weak, where you couldn't cut it, would you correct him in person? Or would you disappear and build something he'd never see coming? Comment A if you'd confront him. Comment B if you'd go quiet and plan. I chose quiet. January 2020. I applied to Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Master of Public Health. Health Policy and Management track. Patient Safety Concentration. The application asked for a personal statement. I didn't mention my family. I didn't mention my father. I wrote one line that mattered. I learned that speaking up is not the same as being heard. I want to build systems where it is. They accepted me with a $22,000 scholarship. I enrolled in August 2020, but before I left for Baltimore, I did one thing. I created a folder on my laptop. Jefferson, 2019. I scanned everything. The incident report confirmation email, my student notes, the student progress committee letter, the withdrawal form, my father's email to Dr. Hale, Dr. Hale's response, 47 pages total. I burned it to a USB drive, put the drive in a safety deposit box at PNC Bank, backed everything up to encrypted cloud storage. I wrote myself a note. I don't know when I'll need this, but if I ever do, I'll have it. Every word, every timestamp, every signature. That folder became the foundation of everything I built next. The MPH program was different. No one knew my father. No one knew my story. I was just another student trying to understand why healthcare systems fail. My capstone project focused on institutional barriers to medical error disclosure. I surveyed 200 medical students across 5 schools. 73% said they'd witnessed errors but didn't report them. The most common reason: fear of retaliation. My faculty advisor read my findings. "This should be published," she said. I presented at the Student Research Symposium in May 2021. In the audience was a woman named Dr. Claire Weston, Senior Director at the Center for Patient Safety Accountability. She handed me her card after my presentation. "We should talk," she said. 3 months later, I had a job offer. Patient Safety Analyst, Washington, D.C., $62,000 a year. Start date, August 16, 2021. I moved to D.C. in mid-August. Shaw neighborhood, small apartment, new city, new name on my work badge, no Cartwright attached to my title, just Stacy C. Patient Safety Analyst, CPSA. My job was simple. Review adverse event reports from hospitals across the country, identify patterns, recommend system changes. I was good at it. Better than good. I knew what it looked like when institutions buried truth. 3 months in, I was assigned my first pediatric case: missed sepsis, delayed antibiotics, preventable death. I read the file and my hands started shaking. It was the same pattern. A nurse had flagged early warning signs. The attending had dismissed them. The hospital had classified the death as unavoidable complication. I wrote a 20-page review. I documented the suppressed concerns. I recommended policy changes. My supervisor read it and called me into her office. "This is exactly the kind of work we need," she said. By November 2022, I'd been promoted to Safety Review Manager, $78,000 a year. I was leading a team of 4 analysts. I was developing frameworks for identifying reporting suppression. I published an internal white paper titled Silent Harm: How Institutions Silence Safety Concerns. 12 state health departments cited it. Around the same time, I got a wedding invitation. My cousin's wedding. November 18, 2023. Marion Cricket Club, just outside Philadelphia. I hadn't been home in 3 years. I almost didn't go, but I went. The reception was beautiful. 200 guests, open bar, string quartet. My father was there in a navy suit, holding court at a table with 6 other physicians. I watched him from across the room. He was mid-story. I could see the gestures, the rueful smile, the little shrug. I walked closer, just close enough to hear. "My daughter tried medical school," he was saying. "Brilliant girl, but the ER rotation broke her. Some people aren't cut out for that level of pressure. 12-hour shifts, life and death decisions, the weight of it all. She did the mature thing and stepped back. She's doing policy work now, government stuff. Not quite medicine, but she seems happy. One of the doctors asked, "What kind of policy work?" My father glanced across the room, saw me standing there, 12 feet away, holding a glass of champagne. He knew I could hear him. "Something with hospital safety, I think," he said. "Committees, regulations, paperwork. It suits her better than clinical work." The table nodded sympathetically. One of them said, "It takes courage to admit medicine isn't for you." I raised my glass, smiled, walked away. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating, because 6 months earlier, I'd started working on something bigger. A research project with Dr. Weston and 3 other analysts. We were studying medical error reporting culture across 1,200 hospitals. We were looking for patterns of suppression. We were documenting cases where institutions had buried safety reports to avoid liability, protect reputations, or shield powerful physicians. We published the findings in March 2024. Silent No More, Medical Error, Reporting Culture and Institutional Retaliation, Journal of Patient Safety. The data was damning. 41% of hospitals surveyed had documented instances of reporting suppression. Students and residents were the most likely to be silenced. The paper went viral in the patient safety community, 2,000 citations in 8 months. I started getting invited to conferences, panel discussions, keynote requests. One invitation came in early December 2024. Email from Dr. Nolan Pierce, Gala Committee Chair at Oakmont Country Club. "Dear Ms. Cartwright, we've been following your work on patient safety reform with great interest. Our members would benefit tremendously from hearing your perspective on the future of medical leadership and accountability. We'd like to invite you to deliver the keynote address at our annual Physician Excellence Gala on February 15, 2026. The event typically draws 400 physician members and healthcare leaders. Honorarium is $2,500. Your father, Dr. Cartwright, is on our Legacy Council. When we mentioned your name, he was delighted. He said you'd be perfect for this." I read that line 3 times. He was delighted. He thought I'd come give a nice talk about patient safety, 20 minutes on the importance of transparency, maybe a story about my work in DC. Something safe, something that made him look good. He had no idea what I'd been building. I accepted the invitation the same day. For the next 2 months, I built my presentation. Not an abstract lecture on patient safety principles, a case study, specific, detailed, anonymous hospital, anonymous physician, anonymous medical student. The structure was simple. What happened, what was reported, what was buried, what the consequences were. 32 slides, 18 minutes of speaking time. I finished the draft by January 20th, 2026. Then I opened the folder I'd kept for 6 years. The USB drive from the safety deposit box, 47 pages of receipts. I added 5 more slides to the end of my presentation, slides 28 through 32, not anonymous anymore. Slide 28. September 19th, 2019, 6:42 a.m., an email. Slide 29, the full text of my father's email to Dr. Hale. Every word. High resolution. Readable from the back row. Slide 30, the report he was trying to bury. Submitted 9 hours earlier. My incident report confirmation. Timestamp. 11:52 p.m., September 18th. Slide 31. 3 items side by side. My student note documenting concern for meningitis. 10:38 p.m. Patient death certificate. 2:17 a.m. My father's email. 6:42 a.m. Slide 32. What happened next? Student withdrew. Physician faced no review. Hospital implemented no policy changes. Family never informed that a medical student had raised concerns, until this year. I sent the final deck to the AV team on February 1st. I didn't tell them what was in the last 5 slides. On February 10th, I received the seating chart. My father was assigned to table 3, second row, facing the stage, close enough to read every word on the screen. Perfect. On February 14th, the day before the gala, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Stacy? The voice was familiar, older. It's Evelyn Ward. I heard you're speaking tomorrow at Oakmont Country Club. Evelyn, the charge nurse from that night in 2019. I hadn't spoken to her in 6 years. I retired last year, she said. But I still hear things. I wanted to call and tell you. What you did that night was right. Filing that report. Speaking up. Don't let anyone make you doubt that. My throat tightened. Thank you. I remember that night, Evelyn said. I remember you. You saw what that attending missed. You documented it. You followed protocol, and they buried you for it. She paused. Go tell them what happened. And Stacy, don't hold back. I thanked her again. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment and looked at the train schedule. Amtrak to Philadelphia. 6:48 a.m. departure. I packed my suit. I didn't sleep much. February 15th, 2026. I took the early train from Washington. By 5:30 p.m., I was standing in the Oakmont Country Club ballroom. Grand room. 40 round tables, 10 seats each. Crystal chandeliers, 3 donor plaques on the walls. All 3 had the Cartwright name. The AV tech loaded my presentation. 32 slides, he said. Looks great. Don't worry if there's silence after slide 28, I told him. That's intentional. Guests started arriving at 6:15. My father walked in at 6:32, navy suit, confident stride. He saw me standing near the side entrance. He smiled, waved, I waved back. Cocktail hour ran from 6:30 to 7:15. My father found me 10 minutes in. Stacy! He put his arm around my shoulders, steered me toward a group of older physicians. Gentlemen, this is my daughter. Tonight's keynote speaker. She's doing wonderful work in patient safety policy. They shook my hand, asked polite questions. My father answered most of them. Stacy left medical school to pursue public health, he explained. Smart pivot. Clinical medicine wasn't the right fit, but she's found her calling in systems and regulation. One of the men said, Your father talks about you all the time. I smiled. Does he? My father laughed. I tell everyone. Stacy's proof that there are many ways to contribute to healthcare. Not everyone needs to be in the ER. For the next 45 minutes, he walked me through the room. 12 introductions. 12 times he told some version of the same story. I was smart but not steady. I tried emergency medicine. I couldn't handle the pressure. I do safety work now. Safer for everyone. Better this way. By 7 p.m., strangers were offering me condolences. One woman touched my arm and said, At least you found something smaller, something you can manage. A surgeon said, Your father must sleep better knowing you're not making life and death decisions. My father raised his glass. Stacy's still useful, he said, just in a more administrative way. The room laughed. I laughed with them. At 7:10, the committee chair announced dinner seating. I watched my father walk to table 3, second row from the stage. He sat facing the screen. He had a clear view. He was close enough to read every word. I sat at the head table. Dinner was served at 7:15. Salmon, roasted vegetables. The room hummed with conversation. My father was relaxed, laughing, telling another story. At 8:10, Dr. Nolan Pierce stood up to introduce me. We're honored tonight to hear from someone who represents the future of ethical medicine. Stacy Cartwright has dedicated her career to patient safety and institutional accountability. Her work at the Center for Patient Safety Accountability has influenced policy at the state and federal level. And as the daughter of our own Dr. Edmund Cartwright, she embodies the next generation of medical leadership. Please join me in welcoming Stacy Cartwright. The room applauded. 12 seconds. I stood, walked to the podium, looked out at 400 faces. physicians, surgeons, administrators, hospital board members. And in the third row, my father. Smiling. I clicked to slide 1. Thank you for that introduction, I said. Tonight I want to talk about what happens when institutions prioritize reputation over truth. The room settled. Attentive, professional. Slides 1 through 10 covered the research, patient safety statistics, reporting culture data, the case study approach. In September 2019, I said, a medical student on an emergency medicine rotation witnessed what appeared to be a diagnostic error. A 6-year-old patient presented with fever, lethargy, and signs consistent with bacterial meningitis. The student documented her concerns and raised them with the attending physician. The room was engaged, nodding. My father looked comfortable. Slide 11. The attending dismissed the student's concerns. The patient was discharged. 8 hours later, the child coded at home. He was brought back by EMS. He died at 2:17 a.m. Cause of death, bacterial meningitis. The room got quieter. Slide 12. The student followed protocol. She filed a patient safety report. 9 hours later, her clinical access was revoked. I let that land. A few people shifted in their seats. Slides 13 through 20 detailed the retaliation. Student Progress Committee, Professionalism Review, Psychiatric Evaluation Requirement, Forced Withdrawal. The student's career ended, I said. The attending physician faced no review, and the patient, I paused. The family was never told that a medical student had raised concerns before discharge. The room was noticeably quieter now. Some guests were leaning forward. Others were glancing at each other. Slide 21. The student was told she couldn't handle the pressure of medicine. I saw my father's face change. The smile was gone. Slides 22 through 27 showed how the narrative spread. How the story became about a weak student who couldn't cut it. How it was repeated at family gatherings, social events, professional conferences. For 6 years, I said, the story was that this student failed, that she was too emotional, too fragile, not cut out for the realities of emergency medicine. My father's jaw was tight. He was staring at the screen. Slide 28 appeared. The title filled the screen. September 19th, 2019, 6:42 a.m. An email. I looked directly at table 3. My father's face went pale. This is the email that ended that student's career, I said. I read the subject line aloud, slowly. Urgent. Stacy Cartwright, professionalism concern. The room went completely silent. I read the sender line. Dr. Edmund Cartwright, Chief Medical Officer, Jefferson Hospital. I read the recipient line. Dr. Walter Hale, Associate Dean for Student Affairs. Then I let them read the rest. I didn't speak. I stood at the podium and let 400 physicians read my father's words on the screen. I'm writing to request immediate review of my daughter Stacy's clinical readiness. During her ER rotation at Jefferson Hospital, she has developed a concerning pattern of questioning attending physicians inappropriately and filing incident reports that stem from her inability to function under the pressure of clinical medicine. 40 seconds of silence. I heard someone gasp. I heard someone whisper, "Oh my God." I clicked to slide 29, the report he was trying to bury, submitted 9 hours earlier. My incident report confirmation. Report number ER-2019-0918-SC. Timestamp 11:52 p.m., September 18th, 2019. I filed this report at 11:52 at night, I said. 10 hours later, my badge wouldn't open the hospital doors. Slide 30, 3 documents side by side. My student note. Concern for bacterial meningitis documented. Nuchal rigidity present. Petechial rash noted. Recommend LP and empiric antibiotics. Discussed with attending. Concerns dismissed. Timestamp 10:38 p.m. Patient death certificate. Cause of death, bacterial meningitis, streptococcus pneumonia. Time of death, 2:17 a.m. My father's email. Sent. September 19th, 2019, 6:42 a.m. The child died at 2:17 in the morning, I said quietly. My father sent his email 4 hours later. He knew the child was dead when he wrote those words. He knew I'd been right. And he sent it anyway. People were staring at my father now. He was looking at his plate. His hands were flat on the table. Slide 31. In 2025, the Center for Patient Safety Accountability conducted an independent review of Jefferson Hospital's reporting culture. I recused myself from the review. My team found 6 additional patient safety reports filed between 2018 and 2023 by medical students and residents. All were dismissed without investigation. All reporters faced retaliation. Jefferson Hospital is currently under a corrective action plan. I paused. The room was so quiet, I could hear the ice shifting in water glasses. I didn't come here tonight for vindication, I said. I came because silence protects institutions, not patients. I came because medical students and residents deserve to know that speaking up isn't weakness, it's their obligation. And I came because my father taught me something valuable that night in 2019. My father looked up. His eyes met mine. He taught me that when someone in power tells you to be quiet, you document everything, you keep receipts, you build credibility, and when the time comes, when you have the microphone and they're in the second row, you tell the truth. I paused. Even if your hands are shaking, even if it costs you, especially then. I clicked off the presentation. The screen went black. For 5 seconds, there was nothing, just silence. Then someone in the back of the room stood up, started clapping. Then another person. Then a section. Not everyone. Maybe 200 people stood. Maybe 150 stayed seated, applauding politely, but not standing. About 50 didn't clap at all. Table 3, my father's table, was silent. My father sat perfectly still, looking down, hands on the table, not moving. I stepped away from the podium, walked off stage, went straight to the side exit. I wasn't running. I just had nothing left to say. The parking lot was cold, February night, clear sky. I unlocked my car. I heard footsteps behind me. Stacy. I turned around. My father. Alone. Jacket unbuttoned, tie loosened, hands in his pockets. He was standing 8 feet away. You ambushed me, he said. His voice was hoarse. In front of 400 people. I opened my car door. Didn't get in. You buried a patient safety report, in front of no one. He took 2 steps closer. Owen Mercer is my oldest friend. I couldn't... He stopped, started again. The hospital couldn't afford a lawsuit. The family would have... He stopped again. You don't understand the pressure I was under. A child died, I said. That's the only pressure that mattered. You had your whole career ahead of you, he said. You could have gone into research, policy. You didn't need clinical medicine. I gave you options. You didn't get to make that choice for me, I said. You made it to protect your friend and your hospital. Don't pretend it was for me. He looked at me like he was waiting for me to absolve him, waiting for me to say it was okay, waiting for me to tell him I understood. I didn't. I got into my car, started the engine, rolled down the window. He was still standing there. You can be my father again when you write to that child's mother and tell her the truth, I said. Her name is Allison Pierce. She lives in Radnor. You can tell her that a medical student raised concerns about her son and you buried them. Tell her you chose institutional protection over his life. Do that, and we can talk. Not before. I drove away. 2 hours on I-95 back to Washington. I didn't cry. I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty. And clean. The week after the gala was quiet. My father didn't call. My mother didn't call. No one from the family reached out. I got LinkedIn messages, 37 of them between February 16th and February 22nd. Some were supportive. That took courage. We need more truth tellers in medicine. Some were critical. There were professional ways to address this. What you did was cruel. I read them all. I didn't respond to any of them. On February 28th, I got a letter. Return address. My parents' home in Gladwin. My father's handwriting. 2 pages. I read it twice. Stacy, I hope you understand why I made the choices I did. The hospital's reputation was at stake. We faced potential legal exposure. I was trying to protect the family name and the institution your grandfather built. I never wanted to hurt you, and I hope you can see that I was doing what I thought was necessary to protect everyone involved, including you, whether you see it that way or not. Perhaps we can find a way forward. I'd like to talk when you're ready. I put the letter down, picked it up, read it again. The phrase "I'm sorry" appeared 0 times. I wrote back, 1 paragraph, mailed it on March 3rd. I gave you the terms. They haven't changed. Write to Allison Pierce, 428 Maple Avenue, Radnor, Pennsylvania, 19087, and tell her what happened. Tell her a medical student raised concerns about her son, and you buried them. Tell her you chose institutional protection over his life. Do that, and we can talk. Not before. S. I haven't heard back. It's been 3 weeks. I don't expect to. On March 15th, my phone rang. Evelyn Ward. I heard about your speech, she said. Some of the nurses who still work at Jefferson told me what you did. She paused. Stacy, you told the truth. That's all anyone should have asked of you. I've been a nurse for 32 years. I've seen what happens when people stay quiet. You didn't stay quiet. You did the right thing twice, in 2019 and last month. After we hung up, I sat on my couch in my DC apartment and cried for the first time since the gala. Not sad tears, relief. It's late March now. I'm still senior director at the Center for Patient Safety Accountability. Jefferson Hospital is still under corrective action, working with my colleagues to develop new reporting protections. Dr. Owen Mercer quietly retired on March 1st. No public reason given. My father is still Chief Medical Officer, but he stepped down from the Legacy Council at Oakmont. I haven't had contact with my family since I mailed that letter on March 3rd. People ask if I regret it. I don't. I regret that it was necessary, but someone had to say it. If I didn't, who would? I didn't do this to destroy him. I did it because silence was destroying me. And I'm done being silent. I built a new table. It doesn't have my father's name on it. It doesn't have his approval. It has my work, my truth, my receipts. And that's enough. If you've ever been told to stay quiet about something you witnessed, in medicine, in your family, at work, anywhere, you're not alone. You're not weak for speaking up, and you're not cruel for refusing to carry someone else's lie. Document everything. Keep your receipts. Build your credibility, because the truth doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be undeniable. Drop a comment if you've ever been the person who spoke up and paid for it. Let's build a thread of truth tellers. You're not alone. My name is Sheila Smith. I'm 31 years old. At my son's baptism, 32 guests watching from the pews of St. Augustine's, Father Michael mid-blessing over the baptismal font. My own mother stood up from the front row, walked to the lectern, and took the microphone from the deacon's hand. Her voice rang through the sanctuary. I want everyone here to know my daughter is not fit to be a mother. The holy water hadn't even touched Isaac's forehead yet. My husband's hand found mine. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. Because I knew something my mother didn't. 4 months earlier, I'd asked for help for postpartum depression. Voluntarily, responsibly, exactly the way a good mother should. My mother had weaponized that vulnerability, filed false reports, and tried to destroy my reputation so she could take my son. But Nathan, my husband, a licensed psychologist, had spent 3 months building an ironclad file. And when he leaned close to her ear and whispered one sentence, her knees gave out right there in the sanctuary. Before I tell you what he said, take a second to like this video, subscribe if you believe family betrayal cuts the deepest, And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. Because that was the moment my mother's perfect lie shattered. But to understand why those words had the power to destroy her, I need to take you back to the beginning. It was May 17th, 2025, a Saturday. Nathan and I invited family over for brunch to announce my pregnancy. I was 16 weeks along, finally far enough to feel safe sharing the news. We'd waited, been careful, wanted everything perfect. My mother arrived early. She always did. Carolyn Preston, 59 years old, retired social worker, former CPS supervisor. 30 years protecting children, she'd tell anyone who'd listen. She walked into our house on Providence Road in Myers Park without knocking, carrying a bag I hadn't asked her to bring. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so happy." She hugged me too long, too tight. "This time, I'll make sure you have all the support you need. I know how overwhelming first-time motherhood can be." This time. The phrase hung in the air. This was my first pregnancy. There was no last time. Nathan caught it too. I felt his hand on my back, subtle, grounding. But I smiled. I thanked her. Because that's what you do with mothers like mine. You accept the help you didn't ask for and pretend not to notice the implication that you'll fail without it. The brunch was lovely. 8 people, mimosas, congratulations. My mother sat at the head of our table. We hadn't invited her to sit there, she just did, and told everyone how excited she was to be really involved this time. She'd made a list, she said, things I'd need, things I wouldn't think of. She'd be there every step. After everyone left, I found her in the nursery. The door to the second bedroom upstairs was open. She was inside, measuring the windows. "Just making notes," she said. "You'll want blackout curtains, and the crib should go here, not where you were thinking. Better feng shui for the baby." I hadn't told her where I was thinking of putting the crib. Over the next 8 weeks, she showed up 6 times without calling first. Each time she brought something: books about infant care with 23 sticky notes marking important sections, a pregnancy journal with her name already written inside the cover as Grandma's Memories, an organizational system for the nursery closet that she installed while I was at work. One afternoon in late June, I came home and found her rearranging our medicine cabinet in the upstairs bathroom. "Just making sure you have everything safe for the baby," she said, moving my prescription bottles to a higher shelf. "You'd be surprised how many accidents happen." I should have said something then. I should have set a boundary. But she was my mother, and she seemed so helpful, so concerned. It was Nathan who saw it first. Wednesday night, July 23rd. We were in the living room. He was reading one of the parenting books my mother had brought over. I watched his expression change as he turned the pages. He held it up to show me. 23 annotations in her handwriting. Blue pen, careful notes in the margins. But it wasn't baby advice. It was warnings. First-time mothers often don't recognize their own limitations. Watch for signs of overwhelm. Postpartum depression risk factors include: "Sheila, I need you to hear me as your husband, not as a therapist," Nathan said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were serious. "Your mother is documenting. That notebook she carries, it's not for baby shopping, it's a record." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say he was overreacting, but I'd seen the notebook too, a small navy blue journal she kept in her purse. I'd glimpsed it once when she was writing in it at our kitchen table. I'd thought it was a shopping list. It wasn't. The pattern continued. In August, I started hearing things. A friend from church, Jessica Palmer, called me one evening after Sunday coffee hour. "Hey, I don't want to stir anything up," Jessica said carefully. "But your mom mentioned at coffee hour that you've been stressed and she's worried about how you'll handle the baby. I just wanted you to know what she's saying." My mother wasn't just preparing to help me. She was preparing to replace me. She was building a narrative in which I would fail, and she would have to step in. And she was doing it publicly to people who would later be called as witnesses. I didn't know that yet. Not fully. But I felt it. A cold dread that settled in my chest and wouldn't leave. Isaac was born on September 2nd, 2025 at 6:32 in the morning. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, 20 inches long. Perfect. Labor lasted 14 hours. I'd wanted it to be just Nathan and me in the delivery room. Private. Intimate. But my mother showed up at Carolina's medical center the moment I checked in. She must have been watching our phones, tracking us somehow. She tried to come into the delivery room. "Nathan, I'm her mother," she said through the door of room 514. "I've seen childbirth before. Let me support her." "Carolyn, Sheila wants privacy," Nathan said, firm but polite. "We'll update you when he's here." She waited outside for 18 hours. When the nurse brought Isaac to me for the first time, I looked through the glass window in the door. My mother was there, holding up her phone, taking pictures. She hadn't asked permission. The first 2 weeks home were a blur, feedings every 2 hours, diapers, exhaustion that felt like drowning, and my mother, every single day. She'd show up at 7 in the morning. She had a spare key I'd given her for emergencies, with casseroles and advice I hadn't asked for. "Honey, you're holding him too tense. Here, let me show you. A mother's touch should be natural. Don't worry, you'll learn." She stayed for hours, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, always watching, always correcting, always writing in that navy blue notebook. 12 visits in the first 6 weeks. Nathan tried to set boundaries, but she had a way of making him feel cruel for asking her to leave. "I just want to help my daughter. Is that so wrong?" 3 weeks in, I found the notebook on our kitchen table. She'd left it there while she was in the bathroom. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. September 15th. Sheila forgot to burp Isaac after 2 p.m. feeding. September 18th. Looked exhausted, didn't shower. September 22nd. Snapped at me when I suggested earlier bedtime. Possible detachment? 32 pages, blue pen. Every perceived mistake, every moment of normal exhaustion, documented like evidence in a case. I took photos of 3 pages. I didn't know why yet. Just instinct. Something was very wrong. By week 6, I was unraveling, not sleeping, barely eating. And the thoughts started. Intrusive thoughts. Horrible, terrifying images that would flash through my mind. What if I dropped him on the stairs? What if I forgot him in the car? What if? I knew they weren't real desires. I knew they were symptoms of something. But they scared me so badly I couldn't breathe. And I didn't tell anyone. Because I could hear my mother's voice in my head. Some mothers just aren't ready. Some mothers need help. If I admitted I was struggling, I'd prove her right. Sunday night, October 26th, 2025. It was 7:45 p.m. My mother had been over that afternoon, criticizing the way I dressed Isaac for church. We hadn't gone. I'd been too tired. She'd made sure I knew that was a mistake. I was giving Isaac a bath. He was splashing, happy. And then an intrusive thought hit me so hard I gasped. An image so awful I can't even say it out loud. I set him down in the bath immediately, stepped back. My hands were shaking. I called for Nathan. "I need you to come home right now." My voice didn't sound like mine. "I'm not safe. I mean, Isaac is safe, but I'm having thoughts and I'm scared." He was at the grocery store. He made it home in 12 minutes. He found me sitting on the hallway floor outside the bathroom. Isaac was in his crib, dry, changed, safe. I was just sitting there, shaking. Nathan knelt beside me, took my hands. "Thank you for calling me. This is exactly what a good mother does." I started crying then. Not from shame, from relief. Because for the first time in 6 weeks, someone had told me that asking for help wasn't failure. At 9:15 p.m., Nathan helped me call the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline. The number is 1-833-852-6262. I'll never forget it. A woman named Ann Winters answered. I told her everything. The intrusive thoughts, the fear, the exhaustion, the feeling like I was losing my mind. Sheila, I want you to hear me clearly, Ann said. Her voice was steady, warm, professional. Having intrusive thoughts does not make you a bad mother. It makes you someone experiencing a medical condition. And you've taken the bravest step by calling tonight. She asked me questions. Was I planning to hurt my baby? No. Never. Did I want to hurt him? No. God, no. Was I having thoughts I couldn't control? Yes. That's postpartum depression, she said. It's common, it's treatable. And Sheila, you're already doing everything right by recognizing it and asking for help. Then she asked one more question. Is there anyone in your life who might use this against you? I looked at Nathan. We both knew the answer. The next morning, Monday, October 27th, I met with Dr. Helen Bradford. She's a psychiatrist who specializes in perinatal mental health. The evaluation lasted 90 minutes. She was kind, thorough. She didn't make me feel broken. Sheila, you're doing everything right, she said at the end. Voluntary admission isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of strength. We'll get you stable, and you'll go home to your son. I signed the voluntary admission form at 2:15 p.m. My hands were shaking. But for the first time in 6 weeks, I felt like I was protecting Isaac instead of failing him. Nathan arranged for his brother Thomas to watch Isaac. Not my mother. We didn't tell her the truth. We said I had severe flu and needed to stay at the hospital to avoid exposing the baby. It was a lie. But we knew she would weaponize the truth. She called Nathan 15 times the first day. She showed up at our house twice. She didn't believe us. But HIPAA privacy laws meant the hospital couldn't confirm anything. Even when she called the main line 6 times, they couldn't tell her where I was or why. I spent 6 days in the psychiatric unit. 5th floor, room 512. Medication adjustment. They started me on sertraline. Therapy sessions twice a day. Group support with 7 other mothers going through the same thing. Sleep restoration. Actual rest. Dr. Bradford visited every morning. You're making excellent progress, she said on day 3. Zero danger to your baby. You're going to be fine. Nathan came during visiting hours, 4 to 6 p.m. every day. He brought photos of Isaac, videos. He smiled today, Nathan said on day 4, showing me his phone. His first real smile. I took a video for you. He's waiting for his mom to come home. I was discharged on Friday, November 1st at 3:30 p.m. I walked into our house and saw Isaac in Thomas's arms. He'd gained 8 ounces. Thomas had taken wonderful care of him. I held my son and cried, not from sadness, from hope. From, Mommy's home, sweet boy, I whispered. Mommy's better now. I'm going to take care of you the way you deserve. That evening, my mother texted, I'm so glad you're feeling better. I'd like to come see Isaac tomorrow. We need to talk. She came over Sunday morning, November 3rd, 11:45 a.m. She walked in and went straight for Isaac, but I was holding him. She turned to me instead. Sheila, I know you weren't sick with the flu, she said. Her voice was calm, controlled, dangerous. I called the hospital. They wouldn't tell me anything. What are you hiding? Viral infection, I said. The doctors cleared me. Don't lie to me. She stepped closer. I've been a healthcare professional for 30 years. I know when someone's hiding something. Nathan appeared in the doorway. Carolyn, Sheila's medical information is private. You need to respect that. She stared at him, then at me. Then she picked up her purse. I will find out, she said quietly. And when I do, I'll do what's right for Isaac. She left at 12:03 p.m., 18 minutes. But it felt like hours. And that's when everything changed. Over the next 3 weeks, I got better. Medication working, therapy helping. I was sleeping 6-7 hours a night. I'd regained the weight I'd lost. The intrusive thoughts were down 90%. I was bonding with Isaac in a way I hadn't been able to before. Dr. Bradford was thrilled. "Sheila, I want you to understand something," she said in our 6th outpatient session. "You sought help at the first sign of danger. That makes you one of the most responsible mothers I've ever treated." She wrote it down. A formal note, a medical opinion. I didn't know yet how important that would become. But Nathan knew. Because Nathan saw what I couldn't see yet. My mother wasn't going to let this go. On Wednesday, November 20th, Nathan asked me to meet with someone. Jennifer Walsh, a family law attorney, a colleague of his. We sat in her office in downtown Charlotte, 90 minutes. She listened to everything, the pregnancy interference, the documentation, the confrontation. "If she files anything, CPS report, custody petition, you need to be ahead of it," Jennifer said. "Get your psychiatrist to write a comprehensive letter. Get your timeline documented. This is preventive armor." Her retainer was $2,500. Nathan paid it without hesitation. "Your mother-in-law has professional credibility as a former CPS supervisor," Jennifer said as we were leaving. "If she makes allegations, people will listen. You need to be ready." I didn't want to believe it would go that far, but it did. My mother started talking, quietly at first. Coffee hour at St. Augustine's after the 10 a.m. Mass. November 10th, November 17th, November 24th. Jessica heard it and texted me. "Your mom was at coffee hour again. She told Margaret Davis that you've been struggling and she's been helping with Isaac more than expected. Just FYI." I went to church on November 24th anyway. Thanksgiving Sunday. I wanted to show my face, prove I was fine. 3 women looked at me with too much sympathy when I walked in. The kind of sympathy you give someone fragile, someone damaged. My mother was working. Then came December 8th, Monday, 2 p.m. There was a knock on our door. A man in a gray suit. Badge. "Mrs. Smith, I'm Michael Torres, investigator with Child Protective Services. We received a report of concern regarding your child's safety. I need to ask some questions and observe the home environment." My heart stopped. "Of course," Nathan said, stepping forward. He was calm. He'd been expecting this. Mr. Torres spent 65 minutes in our house. He observed Isaac, healthy, well cared for, happy. He interviewed us. He walked through every room. And then Nathan handed him a letter, 5 pages. Dr. Helen Bradford's comprehensive summary, diagnosis, treatment, voluntary admission, successful outcomes, medical clearance, professional opinion, 0 risk to child. Mr. Torres read it in silence. Then he looked up. "This is very thorough," he said. The case was closed on December 18th. "Unfounded," the report said. "Child is safe, well cared for, and thriving. Mother is receiving appropriate treatment with excellent compliance. No concerns." But my mother told people CPS had investigated. She left out the part where I'd been cleared. By Christmas, the rumors were everywhere. I heard them, overheard conversations in the church parking lot, whispers when I walked by. I heard CPS was at their house. Carolyn must be so worried, that poor baby. Christmas Mass, December 25th. I sat holding Isaac, trying to focus on the liturgy. A woman I barely knew came up to me after, squeezed my hand. "You're so brave for being here," she said, her eyes full of pity. "I'm praying for your healing." I wanted to scream, but I smiled. I thanked her. I walked out with my head up. My mother had turned my responsible choice to seek help into evidence of instability. She'd weaponized my vulnerability, and she was winning. Or so she thought. Because while she was building her narrative in public, Nathan was building something else in private. Early January 2026, my mother tried one more legal move. She consulted an attorney about emergency custody. Douglas Reed, Tuesday, January 7th, $300 consultation. I know this because we subpoenaed the records later. The attorney told her what Jennifer had told us. Mrs. Preston, voluntary psychiatric treatment is not grounds for custody removal. Your daughter did exactly what she should have done. But she was hospitalized, my mother insisted, according to the notes. That proves instability. No, the attorney said. It proves responsibility. He refused the case, so my mother shifted tactics. If the law wouldn't help her, she'd use something else. Social pressure, moral authority, public shame. On Thursday, January 16th, she went to Father Michael, our priest. She told him she was gravely concerned about Isaac's safety, that I hadn't been honest about my mental health, that as a former child welfare professional, she had a duty to speak up. Father Michael called me that evening, 7:15 p.m. 23 minutes on the phone. Sheila, your mother came to see me yesterday. She's expressing concerns about your well-being. I want to offer support if you need to talk. I politely declined. I told him I was fine. I was in treatment. I was doing well. But I knew what was happening. The baptism was scheduled for February 8th, 6 weeks away, and my mother was setting the stage. She was going to use Isaac's baptism, a sacred ceremony, in front of our entire community to publicly destroy me. And she thought I wouldn't see it coming. But Nathan saw it. And while I was focused on surviving each day, on being a good mother to Isaac, on attending therapy, and taking my medication and proving to myself that I was okay, Nathan was going to war. He just did it quietly. Friday, January 17th. Nathan met with Jennifer Walsh again. She's weaponizing her professional background, he said. That's an ethics violation. We're going to file a formal complaint. You'll need evidence, Jennifer said. Harm, abuse of professional knowledge, pattern of behavior. I already started, Nathan said. He'd asked Jessica Palmer to help. Jessica, who'd been warning me about the gossip since May. Jessica, who was furious at what my mother was doing. Jessica, who was positioned perfectly to hear everything my mother said. Will you record her? Nathan asked. Just at coffee hour, when she talks about Sheila. Jessica agreed. North Carolina is a one-party consent state. As long as Jessica was part of the conversation, recording was legal. Over 2 weeks, Jessica captured 3 conversations, 43 minutes total. My mother's voice, clear and damning. Between you and me, I don't think Sheila should be alone with that baby. She was in a psychiatric ward. As someone who worked in child protection, I know the warning signs. Nathan had Dr. Bradford write an affidavit, 8 pages, signed, notarized, comprehensive, diagnosis, treatment timeline, compliance, outcomes, risk assessment. And one line that would later destroy my mother's credibility. In my professional opinion, Ms. Smith's decision to seek voluntary inpatient treatment represents the gold standard of maternal responsibility. He compiled a witness list. 14 people willing to provide statements. Jessica, Thomas, my co-workers, church members who'd heard the gossip and were horrified. The crisis hotline counselor, Ann Winters, even Mr. Torres, the CPS investigator who couldn't formally testify but sent a private email. Off the record, your wife did everything right. I wish more parents had her courage. Jennifer and Nathan created a timeline, 36 pages, 63 documented incidents, color-coded, yellow for boundary violations, orange for false statements, red for legal and ethical breaches. Every claim had a date, a witness, a piece of evidence. And on Thursday, February 5th, 3 days before the baptism, they filed a formal ethics complaint with the North Carolina Social Work Certification and Licensure Board. Case number SWB-2026-0163. 126 pages of documentation, audio recordings, medical affidavits, witness statements, timeline, allegations, using professional knowledge to harm a family member, filing false and misleading CPS reports, breaching confidentiality principles, conduct that harms the public perception of the profession. The board would send my mother notice within 5 to 7 business days. She wouldn't know until after the baptism. "Let her have her moment," Nathan said. "It'll be her last." Friday, February 6th. Jennifer sent a cease and desist letter to my mother via certified mail, demanding she stop making defamatory statements, warning of legal action. Nathan scheduled delivery for Tuesday, February 11th, after the baptism. He wanted her to feel safe, confident, unprepared. Saturday night, February 7th, the night before Isaac's baptism, 9:45 p.m. Nathan and I sat in our living room. He showed me the file, all of it. I hadn't known the extent. I'd known he was working on something, but I hadn't realized how comprehensive, how thorough, how devastating it was. I read Dr. Bradford's affidavit and cried. Not from pain, from validation, from being seen. "She built her weapon in public," Nathan said quietly. "I built mine in silence. Tomorrow, everyone will see which one is stronger." Sunday morning, February 8th, 2026. I woke at 7 a.m. Isaac was 5 months and 6 days old. The baptism was scheduled for 11:45 a.m. after the 10 o'clock Mass. I dressed him in his christening gown, handmade Irish lace, 60 years old, a family heirloom from Nathan's side. It was beautiful. He looked perfect. I felt like I was preparing for battle. We arrived at St. Augustine's at 10:43 a.m. The parking lot had 18 cars already. Early Mass attendees, some staying for the baptism. Mrs. Eleanor Hunt, the parish coordinator, met us at the door. "Your mother is already here," she said. She asked to sit in the front row. Of course she did. 32 guests. Godparents, Thomas and Jessica, my co-workers, Nathan's family, church members. My mother sat in pew 2, left side. She was wearing a navy suit. Professional, authoritative. Her hair was perfect. In her purse, I could see the edge of something, a clipboard maybe, notes. She was prepared. At 11:15, Father Michael came out to greet everyone. My mother stood up, walked over to him. They spoke for 90 seconds. I watched Father nod. I didn't know what she'd said, but I could guess. One last setup, one last manipulation, making sure he'd be sympathetic when she made her move. 11:30 a.m. The ceremony began. Father Michael welcomed everyone. Opening prayers, a reading from Ephesians about putting on the new self, a hymn, Amazing Grace. Nathan and I stood at the baptismal font, white marble, installed in 1952. I held Isaac. He was calm, looking around with wide eyes. Father Michael began blessing the water. "We ask you, Father, with your Son to send the Holy Spirit upon the water of this font." It was the most sacred moment of the ceremony. The moment before the sacrament. The moment of transformation. And that's when she stood up. 11:37 a.m. My mother rose from her pew, 12 steps to the center aisle, her voice cut through the sanctuary. "Father, I'm sorry, but I need to speak." The entire church went silent. 32 people frozen. Father Michael looked shocked. "Mrs. Preston, this is not appropriate." "I know, Father." Her voice was shaking with what sounded like emotion, calculated emotion. "But as a grandmother and as someone who spent 30 years protecting children, I cannot stay silent." She walked to the lectern, the ambo, where the readings are proclaimed. Deacon Mark Sullivan started to move toward her, but she was already there. She took the microphone, and then she spoke. For 2 minutes and 10 seconds she spoke. "I love my daughter, but I have to tell the truth for Isaac's sake." Her voice carried to every corner of the church. Sheila was hospitalized in a psychiatric ward 3 months ago. She's been unstable. I tried to get help through proper channels, but the system protected her instead of this innocent baby. She paused, looked around at the shocked faces. I'm begging this community. Someone needs to watch out for Isaac. As a former child protection supervisor, I know the signs, and I'm telling you, my daughter is not emotionally stable enough to be alone with this child. I've tried everything. I've reported to authorities, but no one will listen. Another pause. She was building to her crescendo. So I'm asking you, as witnesses before God, to hold her accountable. Silence. Complete, devastating silence. Isaac started crying in my arms. A woman in the back whispered, "Oh my God." I stood there, holding my son, looking at my mother, and I felt something I'd never felt before. Not shame, not fear, clarity. Because she'd just made a fatal mistake. She'd done exactly what Nathan said she would do. She'd overreached. Publicly, with witnesses, and she'd done it in a church. On sacred ground, during a sacrament. I didn't cry, I didn't shout. I looked straight at her and spoke. My voice was calm, clear, steady. "Are you finished?" I asked. "Because if you are, I'd like to continue my son's baptism." She blinked. She'd expected me to collapse, to break down, to prove her right. But I didn't. Father Michael stepped forward. "Mrs. Preston, you need to leave, now." And then Nathan moved. 6 steps. He positioned himself between my mother and me, between her and Isaac. His voice was low. Only she, and a few people in the front pews, could hear him. He leaned close, and he whispered, "The social work board received our complaint Thursday. Your hearing is scheduled for March 3rd. Dr. Bradford already submitted her affidavit." I watched my mother's face change. Confidence to confusion to shock to terror. It happened in seconds. Her knees buckled. Deacon Mark caught her, helped her sit down in a pew. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. She looked at Nathan, then at me, then at the 32 faces staring at her, and for the first time in my life, I saw my mother afraid. But Nathan wasn't done. He turned to face the congregation, to face Father Michael. His voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. Everyone heard. "Father, I apologize for this disruption, but I think everyone deserves to know the truth before making judgments." Father Michael nodded slowly. Nathan spoke for 90 seconds, calmly, factually, devastatingly. 3 months ago, my wife experienced postpartum depression, a medical condition that affects 1 in 7 mothers. She recognized the symptoms. She voluntarily sought treatment. She was medically cleared by a board-certified psychiatrist. She's been an exemplary patient and an exemplary parent. He paused. Mrs. Preston has spent 3 months weaponizing that responsible choice, filing false CPS reports, spreading defamatory lies in this community. We filed an ethics complaint with the state licensing board on Thursday. She's facing professional misconduct charges. He let that sit for a moment. My wife didn't hide in shame. She sought help, which is exactly what a good mother does. The only person who should be ashamed is standing in front of this altar, lying to a church full of witnesses. Jessica stood up from her pew. "I have recordings," she said, her voice clear. 3 weeks of Mrs. Preston's statements. Defamation. I'll testify if needed. Thomas stood. "I cared for Isaac during Sheila's treatment. She called every day to check on him. She came home stronger. Carolyn is lying." Mr. Torres was there. I hadn't known he was coming. He stood. "I investigated the CPS report. I closed it. There was no merit. The child is safe and loved." My mother tried to speak, but she had no voice left. Father Michael approached her. His voice was firm but pastoral. "Mrs. Preston, I think it's best if you leave. We'll discuss this further in private." She stood, shaking. She picked up her purse. 8 people stood and left with her. Her closest allies, people who'd believed her. 24 people stayed. The door closed behind her at 11:52 a.m. Father Michael turned back to the altar. "Shall we continue?" The ceremony resumed. Father Michael blessed the water. He made the sign of the cross on Isaac's forehead. And then he poured the holy water. "Isaac Michael Smith, I baptize you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." The water touched Isaac's forehead at 12:04 p.m. I cried then, not from shame, from relief, from release, from the overwhelming sense that something sacred had just been reclaimed. Nathan's hand was in mine. Isaac was in my arms. The congregation prayed the Our Father together. The ceremony ended at 12:08 p.m. 15 people came to us afterward, hugs, apologies. "I'm so sorry I doubted you. Your mother was very convincing. You're so strong." Mrs. Hunt, the parish coordinator, hugged me tight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have questioned her earlier. If you've ever felt your family weaponize your vulnerability, if you've ever been punished for asking for help, leave a comment. Sometimes knowing you're not alone is the only thing that keeps us standing." The week after the baptism moved quickly. Tuesday, February 11th. My mother received the certified letter from Jennifer Walsh, the cease and desist, demanding she stop all defamatory statements, warning of legal action. She also received formal notice from the North Carolina Social Work Board, a letter outlining the ethics complaint, a hearing scheduled for March 3, 2026. She didn't contact us. March 3rd. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Nathan went alone. I stayed home with Isaac. I didn't need to be there. When Nathan came home that evening, he kissed me. Kissed Isaac. "It's over," he said. The board voted to suspend my mother's certification pending a full investigation. Given the evidence, the audio recordings, the false CPS report, the documented pattern of harm, Dr. Bradford's affidavit, the witness statements, the recommendation was permanent revocation. My mother would never work in social services again. The church community split. Some people left St. Augustine's with my mother. Most stayed. Father Michael called me privately on February 18th. He came to our house. "Sheila, I failed you," he said. "I let fear and assumption cloud my judgment. I'm sorry. Your strength through this has been a testament to something I should have seen earlier." "I forgive you," I said. "But I won't forget. Trust has to be rebuilt." He nodded. "I understand." 6 church members formally apologized over the next 2 weeks. I accepted each apology with grace. But I also remembered who had stayed silent, who had participated in the gossip, who had believed my mother without question. Some bridges don't get rebuilt, and that's okay. By May 2026, Isaac was 8 months old, healthy, happy, thriving. I was back at work full-time as a guidance counselor. Therapy was down to once a month. Maintenance, Dr. Bradford called it. Nathan and I were stronger than we'd ever been. My mother moved to South Carolina, living with her sister. We'd had no contact for 85 days. Then a package arrived, no return address. Inside was the navy blue notebook, the one she'd used to document my failures. All 32 pages had been torn out. Only the cover remained. I threw it away. I didn't need it anymore. The evidence had served its purpose. The truth had been told. Justice had been served. But more than that, I didn't need to prove anything to her anymore. In June, Isaac said his first word. "Mama," I cried. Happy tears this time. I started sharing my story anonymously in a postpartum support group Dr. Bradford recommended. 3 other mothers sought treatment because they heard someone had survived it, had thrived after it. That felt like the real victory. Sunday, June 7th, 2026, morning mass at St. Augustine's. Nathan, Isaac, and me. We walked in together, past the baptismal font, past the pew where my mother used to sit. Isaac was 9 months and 5 days old. He laughed when the choir sang. He reached up and touched my face during the homily. And I realized something. I used to think being a good mother meant never struggling, never needing help, never showing weakness. Now I know the truth. Being a good mother means struggling honestly. It means asking for help when you need it. It means fighting for your child, even when the enemy is someone you love, even when the battlefield is a church, even when the cost is a relationship you thought was permanent. The danger was never that I asked for help. The danger was that my mother mistook control for care. She mistook her need to be needed for love. She mistook my vulnerability for weakness. She was wrong about all of it. Isaac will grow up knowing his mother sought help when she needed it. He'll grow up knowing that mental health treatment isn't shameful, it's responsible. He'll grow up knowing that the people who truly love you don't weaponize your darkest moments. They hold your hand through them. That Sunday, when we walked out of St. Augustine's into the June sunlight, Isaac reached up and touched my face. His little hand, warm and soft. And I knew. This is what winning looks like. Not perfection, not control, not the approval of people who were never going to see me clearly anyway. Just this. My son, my husband, my peace, my truth. If this story meant something to you, if it reminded you that seeking help is strength, not weakness, subscribe. Because the truth is always stronger than lies. It just sometimes takes longer to be heard.
They say just forget. Move on like it's easy. But forgetting you feels like remembering someone I've never seen. I've been trying to erase you from the places in my mind, but the harder that I fight it, the more you're hard to leave behind. Every memory keeps slipping through the cracks I try to close, like a face I should remember, but somehow never know. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. Every moment turns to fragments, every thought just fades to blue, like I'm searching for a feeling that still only leads to you. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. If I never met you, maybe I would know just how to heal. But now every empty moment still reminds me what is real. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. Don't pity me. My heart doesn't need your mercy. I can still stand on my own. I was broken by your leaving, fell deeper than I thought I would. But pain has taught me how to heal now and survive what once I couldn't. You don't have to look back sadly, don't reach out with guilty hands. What you shattered made me stronger. Now I rise where I once collapsed. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. I once begged for your affection, now I've learned my worth in scars. And the man you left in pieces found his own way through the dark. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. Begun. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll rise alone again. I'll rise alone